During my TOEFL preparation, I realized that you can make so many mistakes in the TOEFL that lower your score. And it's actually really easy to avoid them if you know about them. So in this video, I'm going to tell you what you must not do in the TOEFL. Let's get right into it. Let's start with mistake number 1, not using templates. Guys, templates make it a lot easier to get a high score on the TOEFL. In my TOEFL, I used templates and I scored 30 out of 30 in writing and 115 overall. The main reason why I was able to get such high scores were my templates. But why are templates so powerful? They give you sentence starters. This means that you don't have to think about how to start your answer because the beginning of the sentence is already in your head when you take the test. There are 4 benefits of using templates. The first is that they include great vocabulary. Second, they have a clear structure and so help you organize your answer. In the TOEFL, you will get points for structuring your answer in a logical way, and a template will help you with that. The third benefit is that it saves you a lot of time because you don't have to think about what to write in the beginning. I always feel that when a part of the sentence is already there, it's easier for me to write an answer. This also makes taking the test less stressful because you have something you can rely on. That's benefit number 4. If you need templates, check out my TOEFL materials. You can find all templates you need there. Just click on the link in the description box. The next mistake is a big one that many people make. Not taking notes. Some people think that taking notes distracts them from the test itself. For example, from listening to the recordings. But guys, note-taking is crucial, especially in TOEFL listening. The listening passages are several minutes long and have lots of detail in them. It's impossible to remember everything that the speakers say. The questions sometimes ask for specific details, and if you've not taken notes, it can be really difficult to figure out the correct answer. The same is true for the listening part in TOEFL integrated writing. You must know what the speaker talked about to be able to write a good answer. Therefore, take short notes to remind you of key points. A few keywords are sufficient and they won't distract you from listening to the recording. In my TOEFL materials, I show you how to take notes effectively. We look at the line strategy, the circle method, and many other strategies that help you score high. The link is in the description box. Mistake number 3 is a big one that will definitely cost you points. Copying passages in TOEFL writing. Some people use the cut and paste function to take whole sections from the passages. Guys, don't do this. The TOEFL examiners know the text, so they can see that you have copied the words. As a result, they assume you don't have a good vocabulary and you get points taken off. Remember that you must showcase that your English is great. You can't do that if you copy the text. Of course, you will use some of the same words because you can't paraphrase everything. But if 3 or 4 words in a row are exactly the same, try to paraphrase. Change the order or use a similar word. It's better to make small errors using your own words than to copy large sections of the original text. The next mistake is really common and deprives you of the chance to get a higher score: skipping questions. For example, let's imagine you don't know the answer for TOEFL reading question. The biggest mistake you can make is not answering the question. If you don't know the answer, make a guess. You don't lose points for a wrong answer, and your answer may be correct. Take that chance to get a higher score and answer the question. Of course, if you don't know the answer to a question, you can move on and answer it later. But I don't recommend this because you may forget to answer it in the end. This can easily happen, especially when you are under time pressure. When I take the TOEFL, I answer every question immediately, and I mark those where I am unsure. If I have time left, then I go back and think about it again. This way, you make sure that you have chosen an answer for every question, even if you run out of time. By the way, guys, if this video is helpful to you, please hit the like button. Also, comment down below what questions you have about the TOEFL so I know what you're interested in. Now, let's have a look at 6 more mistakes that lower your TOEFL score. Let's check out the next mistake. If your English is advanced, you're very likely to make this one: not practicing. Many people think that because their English is good, they don't need to practice for the TOEFL. That's a huge mistake. To get a high score on the TOEFL, you must know what the examiners want you to do. And this means that you need to take practice tests. If you know what gets you points, it's so much easier to get a high score. For example, in TOEFL reading, you can't simply read the whole passage and then answer the questions. You don't have time for that. You need to know how to find the correct answers fast without reading the whole passage. So you need a reading strategy. And to develop such a strategy, you have to take practice tests. Therefore, always take time to learn the structure of the test. It's a long test with complex questions, and you don't have much time to complete most of them. Mistake number 6 makes your score go down like this: using grammar or vocabulary you don't know well. The point of the TOEFL is to say your ideas clearly. If you make errors using complex grammatical structures that you don't know well, your intended meaning might not be understandable. If the examiner is confused, your score will go down. The same is true if you use vocabulary incorrectly. For example, idioms are especially hard since they require certain situations or they don't make sense at all. If you use a word or grammatical structure wrong, the examiner may have no idea what you're trying to say. You will get a higher score for a simple sentence structure that is clear than a complex sentence structure that is used wrong. Therefore, use the most complex grammar and vocabulary that you know well and stay away from what you are unsure about. Mistake number 7 also affects your score: skipping punctuation. Sometimes test takers try to write or type as fast as possible. They think that getting the idea across is important, so they skip punctuation such as periods and commas. They don't capitalize letters that start sentences and don't divide the writing response into paragraphs. Guys, this is a problem because even if your logic and word choice are great, the response is hard to understand if the sentences run into each other. And so you will get a low score for grammar, and that will affect your entire writing score. Therefore, definitely take time to use punctuation and proper paragraph structure. The next mistake may seem obvious, but it's really important: not being ready on test day. Guys, make sure you have everything you need on test day. If you're taking the TOEFL at a test center, you need to arrive on time and have all the materials you need. That includes the ID that you use to register. If there is a traffic jam and you arrive late, your test may be cancelled. You also don't want to walk around the neighborhood searching for the correct building. You have enough stress with the test, so plan your route well before the day of the test. If you are taking the TOEFL Home Edition, make sure your equipment is running correctly. Check that your room meets the requirements on the TOEFL website. You don't want your test cancelled for technical reasons, so make sure you're ready the day of the test. Mistake number 9 is very common, and unfortunately, it's not so easy to avoid: losing concentration. The TOEFL is a long test, and it's easy to lose focus. For example, lots of people get dazed in the reading section because there are so many facts in each passage. We also often lose concentration when we think our performance isn't good. You must absolutely not give up in such a situation. Do your best on each section. Your overall score might be much higher than you expect if you just try. When I took the TOEFL the first time, I was shocked when I did the reading section because it was so difficult. But I went through the test and just tried to do my best on each section. And I got a score of 115. So don't give up because you think it's not going well. If you give up, you will certainly not get a high score. Finally, mistake number 10 is not resting before the test. Don't stay up all night before the test studying. That's not going to help you. The TOEFL is long and requires a lot of concentration. The best thing to do before the test is relax. Get plenty of sleep the night before. Eat a healthy full meal so you're not hungry. Be sure to drink plenty of water and use the bathroom before taking the test. You won't benefit much from cramming in the hour or two before the test, so use that time to relax. Staying calm is crucial to tackling all 4 sections of the TOEFL. And also remember that being a bit nervous is normal. These are 10 mistakes to avoid when you take the TOEFL test. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, share this video with your friends so they can improve their TOEFL score too. See you in the next video!